How do you do? We're about to unfold the story of Frankenstein. He's one of the strangest tales ever told. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. Well, we've warned you.
You have been warned. Welcome to Minute 1 of Frankenstein Minute, where we dissect the Universal Frankenstein series minute by minute. Is that good?
That works perfectly.
All right. I'm Tom Lang.
And I'm Bill Evenson.
And this is, like we said, Minute 1 of Frankenstein, which we get a nice little kind of tongue-in-cheek intro here, but has some serious things to say. Mm-hmm. That this, was added after, I guess, some previews.
Okay.
That didn't play out so well.
Yeah.
People were outraged, which is hard to imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, in 1931, this was considered pretty strong stuff.
Right.
So they kind of added this, and it's sort of an answer to, there was originally at the end of Dracula,
a
little curtain speech with Edward Van Sloan, who does this one,
mm-hmm.
Which apparently has been lost. I wasn't able to find it. I've seen little snips of it.
Yep, I've seen a few seconds of it.
Yeah, so apparently some of it is somewhere, but
yeah, right. He's not in front of a curtain. It actually looks like a theater screen.
Yeah,
the theater screen is right behind him, and he walks out from behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I consider this a recurring character. I don't know who this character is, but he was in Dracula, and now he's in Frankenstein.
He's sort of he's Carl Laemmle's avatar.
Yeah,
I guess.
But see, it's interesting you brought this up. Look, how couldn't you? But because it seemed to me he's giving the exact opposite message. At the end of that film, what he says at the end of Dracula is, there are such things.
Yeah.
Like, he's saying, if you weren't scared enough, you should really think about this.
Yeah.
This is nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And then, by contrast, what is this, 6 months later after Dracula?
Yeah,
Maybe 9 months, I guess?
Dracula was released, February of 31. This started production in, I want to say, late May, June. Because the studio shut down for 6 weeks. In March.
Lack of money. Yeah,
they were not doing well. Yeah, they were not. And Dracula did well,
mm-hmm.
but not enough to save them.
Yeah.
This was about 6 months later.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast this was turned around.
Yeah, exactly.
Considering how elaborate it actually is.
Yeah, and it is. It isn't. I joke about it being a sequel to Dracula because it's got a recurring character,
right. But
it essentially is. It comes from the exact same place that Dracula came from, which is, it's even. I think John Balderston is even involved in both the Dracula and Frankenstein plays.
Right. When we get to the
lots of stuff we'll get into.
When we get to the credit sequence, I've got some stuff on Balderston and Garrett Fort and all of that.
Yeah.
But
So this I do think it's interesting because do you think Whale put this piece in there?
I don't think it would have gone in without his say-so.
Makes sense.
I think, although, certainly Uncle Carl had the last say, we should probably mention who Carl Laemmle is.
That was an idea.
So if you have no idea, he founded Universal Studios in 1912, which is now the oldest functioning backlot in Hollywood, still used. Some of the same sets, although I'm sure they've been rebuilt and revamped.
Sure.
But the backlot is, the one you see here, will be the one you see on the tour for the most part.
Wow.
So it's the oldest. He was famous for nepotism.
Yes.
Hence, Carl Laemmle Jr. in the credits as the producer.
What's that quote? Carl Laemmle has a big family.
Yes, family. Yes. There was Henry Koster, I think, director, was hired and was driving onto the lot one morning. And was stopped at the gate like usual, and he said to the guard, "Oh, good morning, Mr. Laemmle," and the guard said, "Oh, you know me?" So it was just that much nepotism. Apparently, there were relatives living on the lot that had nothing to do with production. So, it was one big happy family, literally.
Yeah.
But anyway, he didn't particularly care for this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Phantom of the Opera, Hunchback, Man Who Laughs were big hits. Those were product mainly of Irving Thalberg, who had recently left to go to MGM. So now Junior Lemley, who I've heard numerous conflicting stories about, was he an effective producer? Was he just a puppet? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But he liked this stuff.
Yeah, he definitely had an affection for it. He was
in
some sense the driving force to getting these films made. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah, and it's weird to have him say, Mr. Carl Laemmle feels like there's a real ego thing there to assume that anybody has any idea.
Yeah, like anybody. Well, I know when I was a kid.
I went to the pictures and that Mr. Carl Laemmle warned me. What?
Well, thank you. For
yeah,
that.
thanks,
a great
Carl.
guy. you saved me an awful lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I mean it is. Yeah, he says the word tale. I notice.
Mm-hmm.
So he says we're going to tell you a tale. So he's saying, he's not saying there are such things.
Right.
He's saying no.
Yeah, this one is a little more. It's a little more lighthearted, a little more tongue in cheek, which I think is the James Whale influence.
Sure.
You see as his movies, particularly the horror films, progressed. Invisible Man has a lot of humor in it.
Mm-hmm.
Old Dark House is a very dark comedy.
Yeah.
As is Bride of Frankenstein.
Right.
It's almost funnier than it is scary in ways, which I didn't fully appreciate till I became, in my late teens.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that whenever someday. But
soon.
Soon. The little introduction is a lot more tongue in cheek, a lot more lighthearted, like you say.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to talk about who delivers the?
Well, the one thing I definitely want to make sure I say about this is the way I wanted to go into it is you had talked about you growing up in Minnesota, so you're Minnesota born and bred.
I am,
and so am I, and so I thought it was an interesting thing to listen to this accent and to try to determine where on earth this person could possibly be from, because he doesn't sound. He plays a German Van Helsing, I guess, of some kind in Dracula. He's Dr. Waldman in this, but
he's
now
got
he's
slight
doing
British accent.
Slight British. I can't tell what on
and
earth he's
Dr.
doing
Moore
here.
in The Mummy, where again he has a slight British tone to him.
And this, he could do any accent. He's a different character altogether, and he still has this weird way about him. And of course, you look it up and find out where he's from. He's from Minnesota.
From Chaska, yeah. Of course.
Is he from Chaska?
He's from Chaska. Yes.
That kind of blew me away when I learned that.
You got something to be proud of, Chaska, Minnesota.
That's right. Home
of Edward Van
Sloan. What would be the quote? You've been warned. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we warned you.
Well, we warned you. Yeah. Chaska.
And he was pushing 50 here, but he plays, certainly in Dracula, a much older character. Mm-hmm. Waldman, I assume, is older. His hair's been grayed up, and he's got a little bit of age makeup.
Is there? Okay.
A little bit.
Right.
And you see him as himself in the prologue here. Mm-hmm. But he looks a little more, I think he's got a wig, a white wig, made up to look a little older. I know in Dracula he's got the big Coke bottle glasses.
Yeah.
Which helps.
Yep.
And
I actually noticed in that what's the opposite of prologue?
Epilogue
of Dracula.
You didn't watch any Quinn Martin productions and stuff?
I guess not.
Yeah.
Epilogue. Or even Marvel Comics would say that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't wear the glasses there either.
No,
so that's
basically
why I say
himself.
It's the same character.
Yeah, he's Edward Van Sloan, your guide through the Universal horror universe.
That's right.
They should CGI, generate him for the dark universe that they're.
I just read an article. We're recording this in spring, I guess, technically,
late spring
of 2018. And I just saw an article this week that says it's not dead. Somebody's actually working on Dark Universe.
Are they?
I assume people know what Dark Universe is.
If you're listening to this, odds are you made
it
this far without turning it off.
People might not know that.
They might not. Go ahead.
Universal has been trying to sort of bring up their own modern version of those classic Universal horror films, because that's, people point to that. You've got your Marvel Cinematic Universe, now you've got your Star Wars and
DC
Universe. That Universal, in some ways, at least cinematically, was there first.
Yes.
And for some reason, just really can't seem to get it going.
They just butcher it every time.
And like you said, it seems like to us, it seems like a completely viable way to do it is to actually literally play this prologue. To be honest, would actually be a way to get me into it.
Yeah,
but then I'm
not. And speaking of that, from what I understand, Bill Condon, who did Gods and Monsters, which we'll talk about later, is doing Bride of Frankenstein. Is the next?
That's him doing that.
Yeah.
Oh my!
So
well, now suddenly
it might not be a Mummy epic fail or a Van Helsing.
Did anybody see that Mummy movie?
Nobody I know.
Yeah. Okay. That didn't help.
Yeah.
And I like Tom Cruise movies. You know, I like those Mission Impossible
that's
movies.
Where you and I do.
Oh, okay. All right. You can't look at him.
I watched him in The Firm, and his face never changed expression for 3-4 hours or however long that was. So
it's supposed to be like that.
Is it supposed to look like a chipmunk the entire time?
I guess
because that's what I got from it. Yeah.
Well, that was a while ago. You wrote him off a long time ago.
I mean, I've seen a few since, but not interested.
That didn't.
And Van Helsing. I don't know if I could have hated a movie more.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just saw what in the trailers. It didn't look like.
And that would have been enough. Really.
Yeah. Okay, so I got the gist.
You got the gist of it. Yeah. Anyway, back to Van Sloan.
Yeah.
We were talking about video stores in the last episode, and was assistant manager at a chain, Tidal Wave. I don't know if anybody here in the Minneapolis area remembers it. But it was kind of groundbreaking here anyway, in that it had video and music.
Okay.
So there was records, cassette CDs in the front, and you would go back and there's video rental and sales in the back.
Right.
And I was managing the video area, and as we branched out into different stores, it was my job to stock the rental shelves, determine what titles went in what category, which ones we needed, which ones, more than one copy, whatever. I worked with
Someone actually tasked you with this job?
Yes.
Wow. They did it. That's good pick.
Yeah, it was great.
They took one look at you and said, I think you can do this.
Yeah, here's our guy. Nobody else wants this job.
Yeah,
so
true.
Here,
well, that's a good point, too.
But worked with a girl who said she was Edward Van Sloan's great niece. Now, at the time, I didn't know he was from Chaska, Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's not something that someone would lie about.
Yeah,
that I'm aware of. I'm going to really impress this guy.
Yeah.
Find the most obscure character actor I can.
Yeah.
But she said she was his great niece. So if you're out there, Natalie, listening to this, get a hold of me. I'd love to hear some more stories. I don't know if she ever met him, because I'm sure she was born, long after he died.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because I think he died in 1964, I want to say.
Yeah. I know he was still around in the 50s. He was able to be a source for at least some interviews or whatever.
Before he talked to him a few times. I know he's discussed the famous makeup test, which we'll also get into much later.
I suppose
he's one of the few. Him and the cinematographer Paul Ivano are like the only two that really had much to say about it.
Yeah,
I think
Dwight Fry was gone.
It was gone. Flourier was a sore spot. Didn't really want to talk about it.
Yeah. We haven't mentioned Robert? Well, we'll get
to
that next time. Next time on Frankenstein Minute.
Same bad time, bad channel. This was his third film. He did a silent film, and then there was a long gap where he was on stage.
That's true.
Playing, he was Van Helsing in New York.
Right.
Came to Hollywood to do the movie Dracula, and was just it's essentially the same role in Frankenstein. So it was an easy transition. He was one of the early people cast. He was in The Test, along with Dwight Fry, who was another holdover from Dracula.
Yep. You. So by that point, they're essentially cast before James Whale's even involved.
They were, I believe, yes. And they had some people cast for Henry and Elizabeth, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
That didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
For various reasons.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll cut this part out.
We'll cut
get
this
my
part
notes. Okay. You want to talk about what he says?
I want to talk about what he says. I have some thoughts on what he said. We kind of touched on it a little bit, the fact that he's talking about it, that it's a tale. But one of the things that I think is interesting that he says is it's the tale of Frankenstein, a man of science. Now, I thought Frankenstein was a green fella that has bolts in his neck, but apparently Frankenstein is the doctor, not the monster. So I think it's interesting. The movie hasn't even really started, and it's already clear that Frankenstein is the doctor.
Yeah.
He's the scientist.
Well, those lines have been so muddied.
Yeah.
And actually, it kind of started in the play on which this was based.
Right.
It was the first time publicly and in print that those waters were muddied. Now, of course, every toy, every model, every mask, whatever, it just says Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the series, Universal was very, I don't want to say strict, but it was always the monster.
Mm-hmm.
The monster. That's how he's billed.
Well, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. But all the way up through the true story.
Yeah.
He's billed as, well, I think there he's the creature, but basically...
Yeah, at some point he becomes the creature. With Hammer. It's the creature,
Hammer,
right?
yeah.
So they're playing different parts. There's the monster and the creature.
And then the creature. And Shelley refers to it both ways.
Okay.
Demon, she uses a lot of words.
Both ways, meaning she calls him a monster?
A monster and a creature.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the Shelley.
We'll get into that again.
That
yes.
As well. Yeah.
But one of the things he says is that he makes a creature in his own image, which is interesting, without reckoning upon God.
Or the other way that you usually create people.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. It's an interesting way to put it. Without reckoning upon God.
Reckoning upon God.
Or knocking up somebody.
Yeah, right.
In the traditional way.
Yeah. Well, the thing about bringing God into it is that was never Mary Shelley's intention in the original transcript. Now, there's two versions of the book. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah.
The 1818 version, which, happy anniversary.
Yep.
And then she revised it quite a bit in 1831. And wrote an introduction, which is mainly where we get the whole story of the genesis of how it came about.
Yeah.
The weekend in Geneva and all of that. But in 1818 or 1816 when she started it, she run around with a bunch of atheists and sinners and they were the Romantic movement, the Enlightenment. Mm-hmm. God had nothing to do with it.
The irate Jehovah.
The irate Jehovah. I can't roll my tongue like Gordon Douglas does.
Irate Jehovah.
Irate Jehovah.
Comes in later.
And when she did the revision in 31, she was a widow. Okay. She was a mother. Mm-hmm. She was a respected author.
Yeah.
It was a very wise commercial move to reckon upon God.
Okay. I know. That's interesting.
It was never really part of it originally.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah. That's okay.
That's
what I had.
That's what you had? Okay. And then at the end, he says it might even horrify you.
Yes.
Which it certainly did.
Yeah.
This was the Exorcist of its time.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine watching it now. And, I was 8 when I saw it. I didn't think it was particularly scary. Mm-hmm. Thrilling? Yeah, absolutely. And he says that it'll thrill you.
Yeah.
I remember I couldn't sleep that night, and it wasn't because I was scared. I just could not stop thinking about it. Same thing when I saw King Kong. My mind would not stop.
Yeah.
But in terms of horrifying, part of the ballyhoo is they had ambulances out front and nurses in the lobby, and of course they were all on the Universal payroll.
Yeah.
But there are, instances of people running out screaming.
Yeah.
Supposedly people fainting. Now again, Uncle Carl probably slipped them a 20.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did cause quite a furor. There was a story of James Whale was in New York for the premiere. In the middle of the night, the phone in his hotel room rings, 3 a.m. Guy asks me, "Are you the guy who directed that Frankenstein picture?"
Yeah.
He's, "Well, yeah, I am." He's like, "Well, I can't sleep, and I'll be damned if you will either."
Yeah. Right.
So it had a huge impact. It.
Yeah, and as a follow-up to Dracula, it's easy to see how it could have that much of an impact.
Yeah.
I think both of us have sort of the same opinion of Dracula. I really love Dracula. I really love Bela Lugosi in Dracula. But Frankenstein takes it completely to another level.
Oh,
it's
right,
not,
yeah.
It's not in any way that same.
There we go.
We're coming to you from inside the submarine.
The Jerry's are right there.
Jerry's. I don't know what I was saying. So.
Oh no, it just takes it to another level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think.
And that's, we're doing this minute by minute, in my opinion, because it takes it to that other level.
Yeah.
Because it crams a lot into a relatively short
72
running
minutes,
time.
yeah.
Whereas Dracula
Doesn't cram a whole
you could
lot.
cut out about half of it.
Yeah. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know Dracula was, considered the first, American, whatever, Hollywood horror film that didn't cheat you in the end by having which I think is where that curtain speech at the end sort of solidified that.
Reiterates this.
Yeah, it wasn't.
We're trying to say this really happened.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It's a very strange thing to think about. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No.
it is something that I have a hard time getting my head around, this notion, and I've read it before, that the films back then, the horror films, they felt somehow that they couldn't go to the extreme of actually pretending like this
is
real.
Really, yeah.
But it's a movie, so I don't see why you couldn't just take that last step.
I mean, there's, certainly, I wouldn't call the Phantom of the Opera a monster necessarily. Hunchback. I mean, they've kind of been lumped into it, but
they're not supernatural.
They're not supernatural.
Yeah.
And things like Cat and the Canary, there's a logical explanation. London After Midnight, the famous lost Lon Chaney movie. All the supernatural stuff is explained away as the workings of trying to catch a criminal, which just it makes no sense. But it was it was what was done. And as late as 1935, when they remade it as Mark of the Vampire, they retained that.
Yep.
Which has always irked me. But Dracula,
it's cute. That part's cute.
It's cute. What I don't even want to get into it.
Mark of the Vampire Minute coming soon.
Yeah, there we go. Stay tuned.
Yep.
But Dracula, it was the first time in Hollywood, in America anyway, that they didn't explain it away.
Yep.
He's not a guy in disguise. But then, like you said, then Frankenstein just takes and ups the ante that much more. Plus, it's just technically, I think, a much better film.
Yeah.
Whale is a stronger director. Todd Browning, to me, seemed lost once Chaney died.
Yeah,
right. He just sort of drifted. And Freaks, I know, has a lot of fans. Doesn't do much for me.
Me either.
He just... And I think sound hampered him immensely. He just could not get his handle on shooting and sound. And Dracula plays very much the way a silent movie would.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we'll have to talk about. One of the things I think we'll frequently bring up about this film is the sound is great.
Yeah.
We haven't quite entered the era of having a film score.
No.
So it's still early days with sound, and they hadn't quite figured out what they were going to do yet. And that's one of the things that makes this movie so special.
Yeah.
We'll talk a lot about that.
It's one of the few early 30s, early sound movies that doesn't have a score, that doesn't need one.
Yeah.
I don't think it would enhance it at all.
Whereas Dracula, they did one.
They did one. Not a very good one. But
I don't like it, really. No, it's fine.
If you like Kronos Quartet or whoever it was, it's the same.
Philip Glass.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's fine.
It's fine for what it is, but I think it doesn't help it.
Yeah.
No.
It's trying to cover up
the deficits.
Yeah, and this film doesn't need that.
No.
It may shock you. I guess there were some shocking parts in it.
Hey, for 31, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Certainly the reveal, which you don't want to get into now.
We can't talk about that now.
Yep. Well, so there we go.
There it is.
Minute one, and it was amazing how perfectly that timed out. The speech is exactly a minute long.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
This film, at least initially, seems like it was
like
designed to be watched minute by minute.
So thank you, James, for Jimmy for doing that for
Credit
us.
where credit's due.
Hey,
making our job easier. A man literally walks off the stage at the end of this minute.
That's right.
He turns and walks away,
and it fades to black. It's
perfect.
Yep, like they had a stopwatch. Okay, end cut.
Nope, you did it in minute one. Do it again. Yep.
All right. Well, Stay tuned for minute 2.
That's right. We'll be back.
We'll be back, whether you want us to be or not.
We'll be back next time.
Next time.
For minute 2 of Frankenstein Minute.
Thanks much.
Gotta think of a way to end it.
Prepare for a spine-tingling, nerve-shattering podcast featuring all your favorite monsters. You won't believe your ears when you listen to Monster Kid Radio. Hear your host, Derek M. Cook, and his ever-rotating stable of guests discuss your favorite classic and sometimes not-so-classic monster movies. Subscribe to Monster Kid Radio through iTunes or Stitcher, or visit monsterkidradio.net before the next weekly episode of Monster Kid Radio. Go through the archives for interviews with Sarah Karloff, Victoria Price, and Joel Hodgson. Listen to the discussions about movies like Creature from the Black Lagoon, Island of Terror, and King Kong. And don't forget convention coverage from Monster Bash and the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival, Classic Monsters, Modern Talk, and Ahead of Rondo Hatton. Only on Monster Kids Radio.